Eto na mga boss, kakapasok lang na balita. Grabe si BP Sara, nagulat sa korte. Inilabas ng hatol sa bangko ni Duterte matapos hindi umano pumanig sa kanyang spokesperson ng impeachment trial. Ipinaliwanag niyang pinagkaiba ng unusual at unsuspicious. Nadiin siya sa sinabi ng dalawang testigo ng manager ng Land Bank. Tara, panoorin natin to.
And then narinig po natin yung mga terms kanina na suspicious transactions, covered transactions, and unusual transactions. Sa batas po ba, para mas maintindihan natin, ano po ba ang nasa batas na susundan, ano yung, o kailan dapat inire-report ang mga bank transactions sa Anti-Money Laundering Council?
Katulad po nung sinabi nung testigo kanina, lahat po ng covered transactions, yung po yung mga transactions na above the limit of 500,000 at saka po yung mga covered transactions ng mga covered institutions kasama po ng mga abogado, ng mga accountants, ng mga real estate companies, ng mga casino po, lahat po yon ay automatic na nare-report po. Yung suspicious transactions naman po, whether you are covered or not covered, if person usually does a certain transaction, kunwari, for example lang, a general context, usual na 10,000 lang yung dinedeposit mo at saka wini-withdraw mo, tapos biglang all of a sudden, biglang nag-deposit ka ng 1 million o nag-withdraw ka ng 1 million, that will be flagged as a suspicious transaction because based on your baseline and history, hindi ka usual na ganun yung ginagawa mong mga transactions. So the banks will usually flag it and report it and ask the depositor or the withdrawer for documentary evidence, kung papakita ka ng sale ng real estate or ng sale ng property. Pagkatapos nun, ire-report po ng bangko yon kasama yung dokumento na pinakita mo doon po sa Anti-Money Laundering Council kasi naka-flag po yun na suspicious transactions.
And then si Mrs. Constantino po yung first witness. Nag-refuse siya na sagutin kung nag-report siya, kung in-report niya kung suspicious yung transaction po ng OVP, yung encashment ng pera. Tama mo ba? Pag sa batas, pagka mga bank officials hindi nila pwedeng i-disclose kung nag-report sila sa AMLAC, but yung AMLAC pwedeng tanungin kung may nakita silang suspicious na transactions. Pwede nilang sabihin sa impeachment trial.
Yes, yan po yung kanina sinabi ni presiding officer no na any employee and any covered person no or employees of covered persons by the AMLAC na kailangan mag-report po, they are prohibited from disclosing directly or indirectly whether or not they made such report to the AMLC. So, under Section 9C po yun ng Anti-Money Laundering Law. So, yun yung kaninang binabanggit ni presiding officer. Of course, may school of thought po na yun yung position po ng House Prosecution Panel in their memorandum na pwede daw po pagkapag-impeachment, ngunit wala po naman nakalagay sa batas. So, ang pinaka-mainam na pong gagawin dyan is katulad po nung katulad nung desisyon ng presiding officer na isabpina yung mga dokumento mula sa Anti-Money Laundering Council, then it is going to be the Anti-Money Laundering Council as part of their duty and function as an investigative agency to disclose such matters to whatever body or forum or court.
Thank you po, Attorney.
Sorry, Attorney, may update na po ba dun sa nabanggit po ninyo na subpoena for the BIR, AMLAC, and bank records?
Tomorrow pa natin malalaman the compliance of the person subpoenaed. So tomorrow ko pa kayo ma-update regarding the matter.
Wala pang update?
Wala pa.
Wala pang naisusumite?
Wala pa.
Okay.
Necessarily mean na pag unusual siya sa usual na banking transaction ng either agency or an individual based on the law, it is already deemed as illegal. Tama po ba?
Tama.
Okay. But then if they
It is a determination of the bank.
Mhm.
Kasi sila ay nakakita ng records of each depositor if they will flag it as suspicious transaction.
Okay. And if they are being supported by necessary documents, so Yun na yun.
Usually, that's the SOP, the standard operating procedure of the banks. They will have to require the depositor or the withdrawer to show documentary evidence such as a contract of sale to prove that that is not a illegal transaction at hindi siya suspicious.
All right. Thank you very much, Attorney.
But it still has to be reported. Opo, kasi yung kanina pong mga witnesses ng ating prosecution, they can only testify on their personal knowledge on the transaction regarding the withdrawal and encashment of the check. So their personal knowledge are limited to those facts alone. So, katulad ng pagtatanong ko sa kanila kanina, kung natanong ba, sabi ni Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian, parang wala ba kayong pag-uusap ng mga kasama, 'di ba, nung payee, hindi mo ba natanong kung para saan ba 'yan? Tapos wala naman daw ganun na naalala siyang nangyaring conversation nila.
Attorney, yung presentation po ay para 'di ba sa Article 1 which is about
Confidentiality
confidential funds. Yung mga pinag-usapan pong in-encash na mga cheque, ito po yung na-establish na confidential funds ito ng OVP at ng DepEd o yet to be established pa po yan?
Based po dun sa mga testimonya kanina, no, there was no testimony from the witnesses that they actually knew that the funds are to be used for the said purpose. So, yun po yung i-establish pa siguro ng mga susunod na mga witnesses ng House Prosecution Panel. Tama. I think that is the process of the prosecution, no? Talagang inililay down muna nila yung mga flow ng money. And then afterwards, nung tinanong sila kung magpapresent pa sila ng expert na gumagamit ng intelligence funds, no, ni Senator Judge Ping Lacson, they said that they have reserved witnesses for that. So they will be able to show, and even the defense will be able to show kung paano nga ba yung kinaklasify ang funds and how, paano hinahawakan ng isang intelligence or confidential fund ng isang ahensya.
Sir, sorry, tatanong ko na lang din. Sir, yung pag-describe ng two witnesses na paggamit ng two witnesses ng unusual, is it based on their personal yung personal description nila or based sa understanding po nila sa anti-money laundering act?
Hindi ko po alam kung ano yung pinupunto nila, no, pero kasi po ang knowledge lamang po natin, no, bilang abogado, alam po natin na meron din tinatawag na unusual transactions pero hindi po siya under sa anti-money laundering. Under the AFASA law po yun, yung Anti-Financial Scamming Act. But the term, katulad ng sabi ni Senator Judge Joel Villanueva, the term unusual is actually existing in the BSP Circular 12-15 that pertains to the AFASA law.
Thank you, sir.
Lahat ng artikulo po, Ma'am Nympha. So tatapusin lahat yun, Article 4, Article 1, Article 3, and then Article 2. Presentation ng prosecution, and then after that is finished, they will formally offer their evidence, and then the respondent will now magbibigay po sila ng objection or comment doon sa formal offer of evidence for all the articles. At pagkatapos po nun, doon na mag-uumpisa yung pagpapresenta naman ng evidence in chief ng depensa o ng respondent at kung paano po nila yung sequence na kung paano nila ipapatunayan o di-disprove yung mga na-prove ng prosecution, bahala na po sila doon. They will inform the court later on of the sequence of how they will give their evidence in chief.
Yung prosecution, 31 days?
Yung para po dito sa Article 1, 31 days yung araw na hiningi nila under the pre-trial order. So, but as you know, we are only on our 12th day, pero technically the prosecution has only consumed 7 to 8 days So technically nasa 9th day tayo dapat ng Article 4. Pero hindi pa natin nga tapos na yung Article 4, lumipat na tayo sa Article 1.
Isa na lang po ako, attorney. Anong po pwedeng gawin ng impeachment court para masundan ng mga tao yung paglilitis? Kasi as you mentioned po, 31 days nga yung hiningi para dito. And then susunod yung sa bribery, 8 trial dates, and then sa unexplained 12 trial dates. And then, pagkatapos ng prosecution ng presentation sa lahat ng 4, babalikan po ulit nating lahat. Dahil defense presentation naman. So, babalik-balikan yung issue, maaaling marambol na yung tao dun sa mga detalye. Even the senator judges siguro po.
Yung ganyang concern mo, Nympha, no, that was taken into consideration by the senator judges. Kaya as the presiding officer has said, nag-sidebar siya doon sa mga councils para i-propose yung proposal ng mga other senator judges. Kasi nga, baka mas maganda yung ganong sequence para tapos na yung isang artikulo at lilipat na tayo. Nabuo na natin yung storya. In other words, nakita na natin yung depensa at saka yung prosecution. Pero dahil nga hindi nag-agree yung depensa, yung respondent doon sa ganong proseso, hindi na gano'n ang mangyayari. So the impeachment court will just have to rely on the coverage ng media, kung paano itatahi rin ng media para sa ating mga sambayanan yung mga nangyayari po dito sa proceedings ng impeachment court. And of course, as well, the spokespersons of both the House Prosecution Panel and the respondent, and also this spokesperson will also try to itahi ulit at ikwento ulit yung mga makakalimutan na natin mangyari kapag dumating yung future na yun. The impeachment court clarified that the status quo on the sequence shall also prevail in the presentation of the evidence since parties failed to agree. As to the presentation of evidence in chief for Article 1, the impeachment court clarified
the House Prosecution
the status
Panel's
quo on the sequence shall also prevail in the presentation of Article 1, while House Prosecution Panel's Congresswoman Laila De Lima delivered the opening statement. After the presiding officer sustained the objection of Respondents' Counsel, Attorney Michael Powa, the House Prosecution Panel's Congresswoman De Lima's opening statement was ordered to be cut short for violating the order of the presiding officer not to make any conclusions of fact and law. For the testimony of House Prosecution Panel's first witness, Violeta Constantino, the House Prosecution Panel's Congressman Joel Chua conducted direct examination of Land Bank Shaw Boulevard's retired branch manager, Violeta Constantino. After the direct examination, the Respondents' Counsel, Attorney Michael Powa, manifested that they do not have any cross-examination questions for the witness. The witness was excused at 11:41 a.m. During the direct examination, the Respondents' Counsel, Attorney Powa, agreed to stipulate on several matters. 1. The witness's capacity and ability to identify the subject checks. Number 2, the existence and authenticity of the subject 4 checks being testified on for 125 million each. Number 3, that the said checks were encashed by Ms. Gina Acosta as Special Disbursement Officer or SDO on the dates indicated in the checks. Number 4, the signatures of the teller, approver, and verifier on the dorsal side of the checks. During the start of the presentation of the prosecution's evidence in chief for Article 1, Senator judges rigorously interpellated the witnesses and manifested critical observations to the respective parties. For the guidance of the media, the court's inquiries and manifestations were concentrated on 5 evidentiary themes. Number 1, assessment of banking thresholds and procedural deviations. Senator Judge Risa Ontiveros established the witness's 32-year banking career as a comparative baseline. She highlighted a significant operational disparity. The branch's standard daily cash on-hand limit is approximately just 20 million, making the 125 million single cash withdrawal more than 6 times the daily limit. She further established that any transaction exceeding 500,000 pesos generally flags as unusual. Senator Judge Ontiveros and Senator Judge Tulfo inquired into historical precedents, asking if the witness had any experience with other government agencies executing similar large-scale cash withdrawals. Senator Tulfo also clarified the timeline regarding the OVP's branch transfer to Pioneer in 2022. Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian cross-referenced this by asking the witness to identify the single largest cash withdrawal she had ever processed and whether private corporate clients engage in comparable high-volume cash transactions. And Senator Judge Joel Villanueva explored the threshold of operational normalcy, questioning whether repeated unusual massive withdrawals eventually become reclassified as usual under bank policy. Theme number 2, logistical, execution, security, and advanced coordination. Senator Judge Raffy Tulfo meticulously questioned the physical transport of the funds, inquiring into the number of bags utilized, clarifying the 3 to 4 bags mentioned in the testimony of the witness, the specific type of bags, and whether the transacting party was accompanied by security or other personnel. He also inquired if the OVP had requested formal armored or cash delivery services. Senator Judge Villanueva requested details on the specific advance arrangements and documents reviews a client must complete prior to the release of such large volumes of cash. Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian asked if the witness engaged in casual inquiry with the transacting employees regarding the intended destination or use of the funds. Theme number 3, authorization protocols and transactional discrepancies. Senator Judge Kiko Pangilinan pointed out procedural anomalies, asking if it was highly irregular and that the individual who telephoned the branch to coordinate the withdrawal was different from the designated payee on the check. He also questioned the speed of the process, noting that the check's issuance date exactly coincided with the encashment date. Senator Judge Risa Ontiveros explicitly asked what steps the witness took to ensure the transacting party, Ms. Acosta, was genuinely authorized by the OVP. Theme number 4, statutory compliance, AMLA, and mandatory reporting. Senator Judge Bam Aquino inquired whether government transactions are explicitly covered by the anti-money laundering law and whether unusual withdrawals of this magnitude trigger mandatory reporting to oversight agencies. Senator Judge Erwin Tulfo specifically asked if this transaction was reported to the Anti-Money Laundering Council and whether the witness knew the money was intended for confidential funds. Theme number 5, procedural manifestations, witness competence, and credibility. Senator Judge Amy Marcos directed inquiries to House Prosecutor Congressman Chua regarding the witness selection, asking why Ms. Camposano was presented instead of a certain Ms. Abaya of Land Bank. She subsequently challenged the witness regarding potential inconsistencies in her testimonies and the statements made during the House hearings. Senator Judge Ping Lacson formally manifested the necessity of presenting a highly competent expert witness specifically versed in the handling of intelligence funds to properly educate the senator judges. In response, the House Prosecutor Chua and Defense Counsel Attorney Poa confirmed they have respective reserve witnesses prepared to testify specifically on the specialized manner of releasing such funds. The testimony of House Prosecution Panel Second Witness Nanita Camposano. After the direct examination, the Respondent's Counsel, Attorney Michael Poa, conducted the cross-examination for just few questions. There was no direct examination from the House Prosecution Panel and the witness was excused at 1:38 p.m. The Respondent's Counsel, Attorney Poa, agreed to stipulate on 1. The witness's capacity and ability to identify the subject checks. Number 2, the existence and authenticity of the subject for checks being testified on for 32 million pesos each. And number 3, that the said checks were encashed by Mr. Edward D. Fajarda as SDO on the dates indicated in the checks. Number 4, the signatures of the teller, approver, and verifier on the dorsal side of the checks. Number 5, that the checks were funded by the Bureau of Treasury for the account of the Office of the Department of Education. For the Department of Education. For the guidance of the media, the court's inquiries have been categorized into 4 evidentiary themes. Number 1, statutory definition versus operational semantics. As to the AMLA compliance, Senator Judge Ping Lacson and Senator Judge Bam Aquino led a critical legal clarification regarding how transactions are classified. Senator Lacson clarified for the record that the term unusual does not exist in the AMLA statute. Senator Judge Aquino, however, probed the witness's personal understanding of these distinctions, asking who specifically determines if a transaction is a suspicious transaction, to which she answered she is responsible for reporting. When asked if a report was actually filed for the transaction, the witness invoked her confidentiality duty under the law. Senator Judge Villanueva directed the witness to BSP Circular 12-15 to cross-examine her technical understanding of what the Central Monetary Authority defines as an anomalous transactions. Theme number 2, verification protocols and agency authorization. Senator Judge Rafi Tulfo questioned the bank's documentary basis for recognizing a certain Mr. Fajarda as a DepEd Special Disbursement Officer. The witness admitted no specific authorizing documents were submitted to the branch. Senator Tulfo manifested that the bank had a strict duty to verify the identity and authority of the SDO. Senator Ontiveros asked what specific mechanisms the witness relied upon to know that the withdrawal was genuinely authorized by the DepEd. Senator Judge Villanueva probed the bank's protocol for handling changes in authorized signatories, asking if frequent changes to the SDOs are considered standard practice, and directly asked the witness if she believes the branch executed everything properly. Theme number 3, comparative transactional baselines. Senator Judge Kiko Pangilinan and J.V. Ejercito inquired into the historical normalcy of the transaction. Senator Pangilinan established that the witness considered 10 million pesos to be the usual cash withdrawal amount for any government agency that she handled before, and asked if the 37 million transaction was a first in her 34-year career. Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian sought comparative metrics, asking for the average and typical amounts for DepEd payrolls, encashments at her branch. He further contrasted her current assessment with her previous branch experience, asking why a similar large withdrawal by a different government agency was previously deemed not usual by the witness, whereas a DepEd transaction was considered unusual. As to theme number 4, witness credibility and prior statements, Senator Judge Amy Marcos confronted the witness regarding her prior testimony given in November 2024 before the House Committee on Good Government. Senator Marcos pointed out a direct contradiction, noting that the witness characterized the transactions as a regular occurrence during the House hearing, which allegedly conflicts with her current characterization of the transaction as unusual before the impeachment court. Following rulings by the presiding officer on various evidentiary motions and objections by both parties, the trial was adjourned. Pursuant to the rules of procedure and impeachment, the impeachment court will resume session on Monday, August 3 at 10 a.m. The agenda is the continuation of the presentation of the witness of the House Prosecution Panel's case-in-chief for Article 1, with its witness, Roderick Guamil of the Commission on Audit, and on August 4, Ms. Sailin del Campo, of the Commission on Audit, and for August 5, 2026, Ms. Marivic Pareja of the House of Representatives.